Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with more comedy news. In a previous segment, I ranked the original Kings of Comedy from back in 1999, 2000, over 25 years ago, with Bernie Mac, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer. I ranked all of those from one to four in terms of funny and best comedians on that stage that night. Comedian who changed comedy history, all legends and pioneers of the game, especially from an urban sense and urban influence. It had me thinking about if there were a new age of comedians to be the original kings of comedy, which it probably wouldn't be original kings of comedy, it'd probably just be the kings of comedy. Who would those four comedians be today? So that'd be an interesting question. And also, who would be the director for this? So it would have to be some bold and hilarious community comedians who have a lot of influence, comedians who move the needle as far as terms of, just being a comedian and just venturing off into larger than life personas or personalities. Comedians, so comedians that I would pick. Now, some of these comedians probably don't get along, but I'm just talking about strictly business perspective. But let me start off with um, the director first, because the director I think would mean a lot because Spike Lee was the director for the original Kings of Comedy, so he had a lot of influence, had a lot of skin in the game as far as directing goes, had a lot of influence in the urban aspects, especially doing movies with Denzel, just making movies with a message like Do the Right Thing, Jungle Fever, movies like that. He talked about a lot of things or portrayed a lot of things in movies that were taboo at the time, but he brought them to light. That whole Radio Raheem thing that became a thing all the way in 2020 when he's talking about police brutality and things like that. So somebody who put a strong messages in their films and directed like we had not seen before, who were just not directors, but they were painters of art and painted a picture for us that we need to fix, that need to be addressed. So Spike Lee, kudos to him. He had a lot of influence. But if we're going to replace him in a film like the original Kings of Comedy or Kings of Comedy, you would have to go to Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler has painted some of those images. Whether you want to go back to Fruitvale Station, which I still haven't watched, it was too emotional to watch, especially based on a true story. He's painted the pictures of police brutality. He's painted pictures of being a black superhero in, Black Panther and the Wakanda Nation. He's painted horror films like Sinners. He's painted these different pictures that I think he needs to be the director if there's a Kings of Comedy. So his influence is needed for that. But my four comedians I would pick. So the first one, of course, is Dave Chappelle. He's considered by most as a goat of this era. He's drawn a lot of comparisons to Richard Pryor because of his honest takes and comedy. He has classic comedy specials, has a classic TV show and a Chappelle show, which stands the test of time, and I think will eventually go down as one of the best skit TV shows ever. It set the tone for other shows like Key and Peele and all these other skit shows. And what kids are doing now with the skits is all testament to what Dave Chappelle has done, and he's a pioneer in his own right for that. So David Chappelle has a lot of influence. I have to put him in the king um, of comedy discussion if there was to be one. So Dave Chappelle has to be in there because of his realism and his pioneerism, and all the kids today are doing what he did. They're just doing it on social media, but he actually did it on a network and was able to speak against the machine. So I have to put Dave Chappelle in there. Second, Chris Rock, my favorite comedian of all time, stand-up comedian of all time. He's one of the most consistent and talented comedians in history of being a comedian. He has a lot of range. He can talk about the politics. He can talk about music. He can talk about being a parent. He can talk about being an actor. He can talk about all these different things. He can talk about getting slapped by Will Smith. He can do all of these things and being able to be honest and give you his perspective because he has a lot of experience going all the way back to the late 80s. Him being on, New Jack City, one of my favorite movies of all time, all the way to doing the Oscars or, doing these different TV shows. He's one of the most popular comedians ever just because of the way he can cross over like that. He can do these different movies and do these different, play these different parts. And he's also one of the smartest comedians that I know just from hearing his comedy. You can really tell he really reads and he really looks at the atmosphere and the climate of today and see how he measure ups against it and how where we need to go as far as that goes. And he has some of the best analogies and relatability as well. And he has a distinct voice that a lot of people can mimic or try to mimic. So he's a larger than life personality, a household name, probably one of the biggest household names in comedy history. Um, Most people know Chris Rock, whether they act like they don't know black people or not, they know Chris Rock. This next person, of course, they know him. He has a lot of different range as well. Kevin Hart. Now, I was a fan of his earlier stuff, not so much of his newer stuff. It seems like he's doing a lot now. He's kind of spread himself thin, pause. But I think he moves the needle a lot and has a lot of impact. So you would have to put him in the Kings of Comedy tour if they were to have one. Um, and no one has done more than him in such a short time. And he has such a huge fan base. And a lot of people criticize Kevin Hart for doing so many different things, but coming from where I'm coming from, not having much, if I was a comedian and they offered me any kind of deals, I would take him and I would do those deals, whether he's doing iPhones or he's on, Nike or whatever he's doing. He takes all these deals because the money's going to drop one day. You might as well stack as much as you can. But I think it compromised his art and compromised his comedy just because he's been doing so many different things and kind of wore itself out. But he would definitely have to be on that stage, and he would bring the fans out and bring a diverse crowd. So they would definitely have to put Kevin Hart in there. And then lastly, which logistically I don't think will work because he doesn't get along with most comedians because he's such a realist and he sees things a lot different and he doesn't compromise his morals at all. And that is Cat Williams. Now, Cat Williams, I've seen him several times in person and he's very funny, naturally funny, and his voice and inflection and things like that is unmatched. He has a lot of what most comedians don't have, and it's just, like I said, being organic, similar to what Bernie Mac had. Um, he, his tone, his sarcasm, yeah, and one of his biggest gifts I talked about earlier is his relatability, just being able to talk about stuff. The segments that he did he has classic stand-up specials. One of his favorite one is Catpocalypse, where he talked about a lot of different things that were going on at that time, and I feel like he was blackballed after that. Had a lot of things happen to him, and people tried to damage his career. He was able to get through that because he has a strong faith in God, he says, and he's been through a lot, but he's very original, very genuine. The interview he did with Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay was one of the best interviews I've ever seen because he wasn't mincing words or holding his tongue for anyone. Pause. He did a lot as far as exposing the industry, and a lot of people didn't respond because that just shows you that he was telling the truth or there was some merit to what he was saying. So he is definitely one of my favorite comedians all the time, and he never misses. So I would definitely put him in a four. So Cat Williams has a lot of appeal and a lot of realism. So I think those four comedians, Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, Cat Williams, will all be in the Kings of Comedy. Tell me who your thoughts about who would be in the Kings of Comedy if they reorganized it and did a new one, especially with Ryan Coogler directing, in my opinion. And until next time, I'll see you next time.